ask if she can lower that. She's gonna be pissed.
That's what I said. Like, my rooms, like, we just got in there, the bed's in there. Like, if you guys want to do it there, like...
No, we just don't have enough seats.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could take some chairs. I don't know.
Kind of a bad look to...
Yeah, hotel room.
This looks pretty professional, right? It's good enough for me.
We found an abandoned restaurant.
So let's see. All right, we are live here in an abandoned warehouse in Charleston, South Carolina. No, we are live. It's been a busy day for me working on some other things that if you are a Status Coup member, I left a members video to talk about kind of some of the things I'm working on down here. Something fell in my lap that I had to work on outside of the primary. But so I worked on that all day, but we wanted to come to you tonight to go through kind of where things are now, 2 days before the South Carolina primary. Before I get to all that, because I want to wait till more viewers come in. Oh, already 74 people watching. Holy cow. Before I get to kind of the state of the race, I am joined by two canvassers and supporters of Bernie Sanders. So George and Nick have been knocking on doors here. One is from Kansas City, one is from New York. So they came down just for the primary here to try and bring Bernie Sanders to victory. They have a lot of interesting insights that you wouldn't really hear on Chris Matthews' program about kind of the response they're getting, all that stuff. There were new polls that came out today in South Carolina. I haven't had a chance to really look at all of them, but the few that I looked at, I find questionable in terms of just who are they polling. So we're going to get to that. There's also a lot of other polls out from Arkansas, Colorado, Massachusetts, national polls, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And there is an overall picture that is very, very good for Bernie Sanders. Very, very good for Bernie Sanders. So apologies if the lighting's not good. We're in a lobby of a crappy lit place. So remember, it's a super chat. So we need you to help us out in the super chat. And right now, for the 200 people watching, that's definitely going to get a lot higher. We are 13, count it, 13 members away from 1,600. So we have to hit 1,600 tonight. So I'm not getting off until we do. I'm not signing off until we hit 1,300. So George and Nick will help me do it. So remember, also we have 228 people watching. Only 82 of you have pressed that like button. It's right here. Zoom in. Right there. You see that like button? Right there, I need you to press that like button. So we got 250 people watching, 96 of you have pressed like. I need that up to 250 of you. Press that like button. If you don't like me, fake it. Just pretend. Just pretend to like me right there. So, let's start with what I think is just incredible. We are in South Carolina 2 days before the primary. Super Tuesday is 3 days after that. And what do you know? The New York Times comes out with a story this morning that basically says they interviewed 90 superdelegates out of their 700 something superdelegates. But the New York Times interviewed 90 superdelegates, and the majority of those superdelegates said if Bernie Sanders does not reach 1,951 pledged delegates, which is the number he needs, or any candidate needs, to clinch the nomination on the first ballot. If he doesn't reach that, they're going to choose the candidate themselves. And I want to play you a clip that, honestly, it's just all sorts of outrageous. I want to play you a clip from MSNBC earlier that I clipped out. I don't know if you guys saw this. This is a former South Carolina state representative who was also a former advisor to President Obama. And let's see what he said about who decides the nominee. for the Democratic Party. This is just too good to be true.
And we're starting to hear this more and more, and we'll probably have a better sense, obviously, Tuesday after the 1,300 delegates that are up for grabs there are spoken for. But this idea that perhaps Bernie Sanders is moving the goalpost a bit when it comes to delegates and what could go down at the convention in Milwaukee. What say you to that?
Well, I will say that Bernie is moving the goalposts. This is what people need to remember. The Democratic Party has a party. The party decides its nominee. The public doesn't really decide the nominee. The public gets to vote for President of the United States, but people who are active in the party, who participate in the party, they decide the nominee. Superdelegates are very influential in the party. Also, delegates are very influential. And just because you're a pledged delegate for Bernie Sanders or a pledged delegate for Joe Biden doesn't mean when you get to the convention floor that you'll stay a delegate for Biden or Sanders. That's a process.
Let me play this one more time.
After the 1,300 delegates that are up for grabs there are spoken for. But this idea that perhaps Bernie Sanders is moving the goalposts a bit when it comes to delegates and what could go down at the convention in Milwaukee. What say you to that?
Well, I will say that Bernie is moving the goalposts. This is what people need to remember. The Democratic Party has a party. The party decides its nominee. The public doesn't really decide the nominee. The public gets to vote for President of the United States, but people who are active in the party, who participate in the party, they decide the nominee.
Democratic only in name? Right.
So, for the 400 people watching right now, 400 people are watching right now, by the way. We got 236 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 120. Press that like button, press that like button, press that like button. So, to the suckers that came in from Kansas City, the suckers that came in from New York, the suckers that went to Iowa and New Hampshire and Nevada from all over the country to knock on doors, I got a message for you. It's a scam. This is all one big racket. You wasted your time, you wasted your money to fly in, to drive in, whatever. All the doors you knocked on, doesn't matter. The people don't actually decide who the nominee is. The party does. Now, in fairness, that gentleman was not Tom Perez saying that, obviously. It's not Nancy Pelosi saying it. But, you know, this guy said the quiet part out loud. This is exactly what the DNC's lawyer said in public in the DNC fraud lawsuit. He said, well, you know, if we really want to, we decide the nominee. You know, we just go in a smoke-filled back room and decide the nominee. This is why, and this narrative going around that, oh, Bernie's a hypocrite. He wanted these rules. No. Bernie Sanders in 2016 fought against superdelegates, but he couldn't get them moved out of he couldn't get them abolished in real time during the contest. So Bernie Sanders, and I have a clip of it, which I'm going to show you, said, in states where Hillary Clinton beat me by a sizable margin, or I beat Hillary Clinton by a sizable margin, the superdelegate should honor the voters from those states and should go with, if Hillary won by a lot in a certain state, they should go with her. If I won by a lot in a certain state, they should go with me. He wasn't calling for superdelegates to, go against the voters of particular states. He said in states where it was very, very close, yeah, he tried to get superdelegates over him because that's what the rules were within 2016. After 2016, Bernie Sanders and his supporters on the Unity Reform Commission, which itself was a ridiculous joke. The media is not saying it. When they say Bernie is moving the goalpost, Bernie Sanders, the progressive members of the Unity Reform Commission, they were the minority on the commission. There was less of progressives on that commission than there were Hillary, Obama, establishment folks. So they didn't have real power. So they, Bernie, the progressives on that committee, tried to get superdelegates abolished completely so that the person with the most pledged delegates would be the nominee. But because they were in the minority, it's not that these are the rules Bernie Sanders demanded. It's the rules they had to accept. So all they could get was a modest improvement of the superdelegates moving to the second ballot. So basically, the media, welcome new status quo member Cindy. We are now, let me count it here. Hold on. Sorry, guys, I got a lot to do, but we're going to get to you. Cindy just joined, so we are now just, let me count. Two. We are now a mere 12 members away. 10 members away. 10 members away from 1,600. Keep signing up. Statusquo.com/join. Become a member for as low as a cup of coffee a month. That's $5. Well, an overpriced Starbucks cup of coffee. $5 a month. So let me ask you, and we're going to get more into the details of the New York Times story. So the New York Times interviews all these because I'd like to know. You guys are knocking on doors. You've been here knocking on doors. You've been knocking on doors. And we're going to talk about the response you're getting. Basically, what it seems to me, Warren's staying in for this exact purpose. Pete probably going to stay in after getting clobbered here and other places for this exact purpose. Amy, if Biden wins here, I think she's going to drop out and hope to be his vice president. But all these other people staying in basically because the elites of the party are saying we're going to try to screw Bernie. And by the way, the headline of the New York Times story and quotes in that New York Times story, they said, yeah, we're willing to risk destroying the party. What does it say to you that you're working your butt off because you believe in someone, and basically they're saying it's not going to matter?
For me, it's a mixed bag. It's a little disheartening.
Oh, sorry. Say your name, where you're from. Yada, yada, yada.
Hey, I'm George. I'm from New York City. Came out to canvass a little bit in South Carolina, and I've been out here for 2 weeks now, having a blast, and I think having some great conversations with people in mostly rural minority areas all over South Carolina. And for them to say something like this is a little disheartening, but it also at the same time is just motivating me to work harder, because we need a huge majority to just run away with it, and I'm going to fight to make sure it happens. But it's a little disheartening.
George, I was expecting more fire from you. Nah.
So the biggest thing that strikes me, I'm Nick from Kansas City, and I've been here for the last month. A lot of people that have been following my story saw that I've been talking to a lot of people here in South Carolina. So it's very disappointing to see the Democrats have done this, but this is pretty much pure projection, because what we heard from Democrats for the last few years, that Russia is supposed to be this big threat to our democracy, right? Russia is a big threat. Donald Trump is a big threat to rule of law. But meanwhile, the biggest threat to democracy is the super delegates in the Democratic Party that are trying to steal the nomination from, just like I said, me and George, we've been working really hard trying to get Bernie elected. So I'm very upset that they decided to do this. And this is why I push back on a lot of you see a lot of propaganda that come out there where they say Trump is the biggest threat to democracy. They say Russia is a giant threat. Meanwhile, they cooked the election in 2016. You see what they're doing now. So I'm not happy, at least. So the only way we can combat this, and the reason why I go after them pretty aggressive, is that we have to have the will of the people. The only way we can fight against them, because they will 100% try to steal it from Bernie. The only way we can stop them is if we have a massive amount of people in Milwaukee letting their voice heard. And I talked to a lot of people in my circle, and I feel pretty good, because we are not sitting down and letting this happen, because there are a lot of people that have been volunteering, just like me and George. And I think there's a plan on the grassroots. I ain't to let too much out, but I talked to some people, and trust me, we are not willing to let this slide. Not at all.
And I want to say hello to our new status quo members, Stacy, Cindy, Jean, Jonathan, Alexander. We are, again, 10 members away from 1,600. And by the way, why it's so important, we got to get to 1,600 right now. This live stream, 10 more members to go. After South Carolina, there's a national primary 3 days later. We haven't booked it yet. We want to book California. We might even want to do 2. We might want to go to California and maybe even Texas. We'll see. But we need more funding to do that. We have grown so much since the Iowa caucus. I think we're up like over 400 paid members. But we got to keep going because between flights, rent-a-cars, I mean, you guys have been doing your own GoFundMe. It ain't cheap. Flights, rent-a-cars, food, hotels, you know, last-minute things. Keep signing up. And as it looks right now in the polls I'm going to show you, it looks like this is going to be a long, long campaign in a good way for progressives. It looks like Bernie Sanders, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but could be headed possibly, if they don't screw him, towards a general election. I mean, unless you want to leave it to CNN to cover that, we're going to need funding. So keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. So I want to read a couple quotes from this story just to show you the mere arrogance. So I already showed you a clip of that guy basically saying, yeah, no, the people don't decide. We decide. So here you have Jay Jacobs, the New York State Democratic Party chairman and a superdelegate. He said, Bernie wants to redefine the rules and just say he needs a plurality. I don't think we buy that. I don't think we buy that. I don't think the mainstream of the Democratic Party buys that. If he doesn't have a majority, it stands to reason that he may not be the nominee. And what I find so interesting there, it's these little code words, mainstream of the Democratic Party. Really what they mean is the bourgeoisie. Because the mainstream, I would assume, is the majority of voters that vote. I would say this if it was Warren, by the way. The mainstream is the popular will. And I find it so ridiculous because all we've been hearing from these folks, Hillary Clinton's folks, Obama's people, all of these neoliberal resistance fighters. Hillary won the popular vote by 3 million votes, which I agree with. I don't like Hillary Clinton, but she did. She won. If we had a sane country, she would have been declared the president. But when it's Bernie Sanders, oh, you got to let the process play out. I mean, look at Elizabeth Warren. This is her in her town hall, which, by the way, these town halls are a 1-hour infomercial for every candidate but Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden, I mean, Chris Cuomo might as well have been doing some things I won't say. Let's hear what Elizabeth Warren, when asked by a Bernie supporter, why are you being a hypocrite now?
Here in Charleston, he is currently supporting Senator Sanders. Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Senator Warren. Welcome to Charleston.
Thank you.
During the Nevada debate, you and every other candidate on the stage, except for Bernie, hello somebody, indicated that the candidate with the plurality of delegates should not necessarily be the nominee. This essentially means the will of the voters could be denied by the superdelegates and the DNC, which is basically undemocratic. And in my opinion, is a bunch of baba booey, to put it politely. Can you explain why the will of the voters should not matter if no candidate reaches a majority of delegates?
So you do know that was Bernie's position in 2016.
Not necessarily, no. He won 22 states, so he went to the convention.
That was Bernie's position in 2016, that it should not go to the person who had a plurality.
Okay.
So, and remember, his last play was to superdelegates. So the way I see this is you write the rules before you know where everybody stands, and then you stick with those rules. So for me, Bernie had a big hand in writing these rules. I didn't write them, but Bernie did when they were putting together the 2016 platform for the Democratic Convention. Those are the rules that he wanted to write and others wanted to write. Everybody got in the race thinking that was the set of rules. I don't see how come you get to change it just because he now thinks there's an advantage to him for doing it.
So, of course, this is actually not true. Of course, this is actually not true. But before I get to that, I want to welcome new Status Coup members. Let me get your names. Welcome new Status Coup members. John, Stephanie, we are now 8 members away. 8 members away from 1,600. Who's going to be the elite 8? We need 8 more people to hit 1,600, and then we're going to keep going on from 1,600. Statuscoup.com/join. For members, I posted a exclusive video just for members yesterday, so definitely check that out. Keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. By the way, we have 800 people watching, only 552 Only 552 of you have pressed that like button. Hit that like button. It's a thumbs up button right under the live stream. Makes a big difference. Also, hit me with some super chats if you can. I am feeling super. Tomorrow we will be headed to Columbia, not the country, the part of South Carolina. Big Bernie rally tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm actually going to be on, what's that show? The Hill. With Crystal Ball, so I'm looking forward to joining them about my reporting here. So let me show you when Elizabeth Warren says this was Bernie's position in 2016, and this was a good find by journalist Walker Bregman. Here is what Bernie said in 2016.
He's thinking about going to you, but Hillary Clinton won their state. Presumably they should stick with Hillary Clinton. Look, there's not a reason. The superdelegate is thinking about going to you, but Hillary Clinton won their state. Presumably they should stick with Hillary Clinton.
Look, there's not a rigid rule, but I think, you win, Hillary Clinton wins with 53% of the vote. She won Illinois by a point or two, sure. But when a candidate, whether it's Clinton or myself, she demolished us in Mississippi, I think the superdelegates should support her in Mississippi. But when in states like Colorado, and in many other states, Utah, etc., we win the overwhelming majority of vote, I think those superdelegates should go with their state.
So he was saying, because there state after state after state after state, that he actually won the actual vote, democracy, the vote. He was saying those superdelegates who went against the actual people they represent and said, I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton, he was saying they should honor the will of their voters and go to me. He wasn't saying, oh, if Hillary Clinton finishes with more pledged delegates than me, that they should, come to me. He was going state by state and saying, I don't have the number, but there was a long list of states that, Howard Dean, for example, Bernie Sanders won Vermont. Howard Dean, a superdelegate for Vermont, was going to Hillary Clinton. He was saying, honor the will of the voters. Am I incorrect here?
You heard it here. I'm glad he found that clip. Bernie Sanders, it's just a dishonest attack. He clearly wanted something different with the superdelegates. He got the best he could, and with a minority in the Unity Commission. So he fought to get him out of the first round, and at least we have that. But to just say that his will in 2016, it's a dishonest attack.
And Justin agrees with me because he just signed up as a Status Coup member. Welcome, Justin, new Status Coup member. We are now 7 members away. 7. Welcome, Justin and Jasmine. We are now 6 members away from hitting 1,600. So keep signing up.
So what I find interesting, what I really don't understand from Warren is her strategy. I don't understand what she's trying to accomplish at this point. One thing that's clear is that the Hillary Clinton advisors, they ruined another candidate. Because you see what happened when the race first started, you had someone who I thought was going to be a much bigger threat. When I looked at the original lineup of candidates, I thought that Kamala Harris might be able to give us a good run. Obviously, I was pretty wrong on that prediction. But one of the reasons why I was wrong about that, because Kamala Harris, she backed herself with a lot of Hillary Clinton surrogates, and obviously Kamala Harris dropped out. So what happened was a lot of the Hillary Clinton people started going with Warren. You start hearing about Warren meeting with Hillary Clinton in secret. So I think I see Elizabeth Warren's campaign I think it's one of the most hilarious stories of this campaign, because you saw how much she surged originally in October. And she lost over half her support. A lot of them went to Bernie. Ever since she started making this strategy where it was exactly around the time where she got a lot of Hillary people, where you see her going to the strategy where she's going to play both sides. Now, my question is, what is her end game?
I'll tell you what her end game is. I don't need to tell you. Here's one of her top surrogates, Adam Green, who went on MSDNC today. Here's what he said.
I wish her well there. Very optimistic that she will enter those states with big momentum.
Do you think she's going to win any particular state, or do you have an expectation for the delegate count that she'll walk away with after Tuesday?
Well, my expectation is that when you look at the totality of candidates on the playing field, she will be, in the top tier when it comes to delegate count.
What about winning any states?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you had to choose between, winning one state here, one state there, versus crushing it when it comes to delegates, you would much rather have delegates. I saw that Amy Klobuchar is going to North Dakota. I wish her well there. But if she leaves Super Tuesday with a couple delegates from North Dakota, that would not be as desirable as Elizabeth Warren crushing it when it comes to delegates in Colorado, Texas, California. So that's a long-term path to her victory. Really entering the top tier or continuing the top tier after Super Tuesday as some other candidates fall by the wayside.
So I know Elizabeth Warren has said that she wants to go into the convention with the delegates that she has earned. And there's also a story out from the New York Times talking about super delegates trying to stop Senator Sanders. And it says, since Mr. Sanders' victory in Nevada's caucuses on Saturday, the Times has interviewed 93 party officials, all of them super delegates who could have a say on the nominee at the convention, and found overwhelming opposition to handing the Vermont senator the nomination if he arrived with the most delegates, but fell short of a majority.
So he didn't have to say it. Obviously, Elizabeth Warren thinks she could just hang out, keep going, doesn't need to actually win any states. By the way, if she loses her home state in Massachusetts, which I'm going to show you the polling for that state and other states, she's losing Massachusetts right now. Bernie is going to Massachusetts tomorrow. That is a political version of that. Does YouTube demonetize for a middle finger? Bernie going into her home state is basically to win it and knock her out. Marco Rubio in 2016 lost Florida, dropped out the next day. You really can't make a presidential case if you don't have the support of your home state. But what's amazing to me is obviously they can't say whether she's going to win any states. They're basically just hoping that she could stick in it till the convention. And, hopefully by then, Bloomberg will be so detestable that he's too toxic. Biden, who knows if he's going to be functioning by then. Pete, I don't think people would go towards him. And she's hoping that she can make the case that I'll be the unity ticket, where the moderates could stomach me and Bernie's people will eventually come around to me.
So you gotta wonder, what does that say about the Democratic Party in general? Because we saw the results in Nevada, right? So Bernie Sanders has 52% Hispanic support. And this is the party that claims they represent the Hispanics, right?
73%.
Yeah, 73%. Absolutely. So that's even more outstanding. So what does that say about the party? That they are going to completely ignore the will of the voters that they claim to say they represent, right? So you see, what we've been hearing our entire life, we need to have a base of young people. We need to have a strong base of Hispanics, our largest growing population. So you see a party that is now looking to spit right in the face of the largest voting bloc we have in our party. That just shows how out of touch they are as party elites. And this is the point I've been making for a while. I think Democrats much rather have Trump win again than have Bernie Sanders, because Nancy Pelosi fundraises on Trump. It allows them, like Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren, they vote for the trade deals, vote for the military deals, but you hear nothing but Trump noise. So they allow to make votes that would otherwise be a little bit more harmful if they was under Obama or something. But now they have the cover of Trump. So now that they tried their best to win with Biden, I do honestly think that. I think once they saw that Biden was tanking down, and that Bernie had a strong chance to win the nomination, I think it's clear that they're doing anything they can to tank their chances, because I think Bernie has a strong chance to win the nomination. And my question to any Warren supporters or any Democrats in general who are never Bernie, for example, who want to beat Trump, let me ask you this. So how does it make sense? You think you're going to beat Donald Trump in the Electoral College if you can't even beat Bernie Sanders or win your own party nomination popular vote? That doesn't make any sense. So when I put these things together, it makes it seem like they don't want to win. They wanted to win with Biden, but now Biden's going to lose. They put Bloomberg in a race knowing that he probably don't stand a chance, but that was the kind of delusional thing they can take out Sanders. But now that they see Bernie's kind of like riding on the wall, I think they're trying to do everything they can to take their chances. So you see, why would they say that on TV? Like, they're being openly anti-democratic, because like I said, I honestly think you're going to see a lot of weird action from Democrats, because I honestly do think they'd rather have Trump win than Bernie win.
Well, it really comes down to your definition of win. And welcome new Status Coup member Shane. We are now 4 members away. Count them, 4 members away from hitting 1,600. I need 4 more of you. Sign up low as a cup of coffee a month, Starbucks coffee a month. Statuscoup.com/join. It's the only way we could fund this. Tomorrow we're headed to Columbia to cover Bernie, who's going to be in Columbia, South Carolina. Saturday we'll be here for the primary, monitoring the fuckery. Then, as far as you take us, we have not booked a flight for Super Tuesday yet. We're waiting to see how much funding we could get before then, so it actually makes a difference how many signups we get. It makes a difference where we could actually go for Super Tuesday. It makes a difference where we could go after Super Tuesday. I'm ready. Jamal's ready. We're willing to go all over the place, but we need you. Statuscoup.com/join. Winning. What is the definition of winning? Is winning the presidency, or is winning making sure you don't have a president that's going to threaten the consultants, the think tanks, the lobbyists, the bank, all of the money train? That is the grave threat. And I want to show you how absurd all of this is, because if they wanted to win the election, and sorry you guys can't see it, but I want the audience to see it. Look at these polls. Sanders versus Trump, swing states averages. Right now, Bernie is beating Trump in Michigan, 49 rounded, 49 to 44. He's up 5 points in Michigan. I'm sorry, do we need Michigan in the general election? Did Trump win Michigan? Bernie's beating Trump by 5 points right now. Ohio, Bernie is beating Trump by 2.5 points. Minnesota, Bernie's up by 9 points. Wisconsin, tied. But let me tell you something. There's no Democratic candidate that is beating Trump in Wisconsin right now. Bernie, at least, is tied with him in Wisconsin. And wait till Bernie goes after Donald Trump over Foxconn and all the empty promises Donald Trump made to Wisconsin. Pennsylvania. Oh, did Trump win Pennsylvania? Bernie Sanders is beating Trump by 3 points in Pennsylvania. Then you look through even further. Oh, we'll get to South Carolina in a bit. Arkansas, a Super Tuesday state. Bernie Sanders is taking the lead. He's up by 1 over Mayor CIA. In 2016, Bernie Sanders got clobbered in the South. He's right now could win Arkansas, of all places. Then you have Wisconsin general election. Again, need to beat Trump in Wisconsin. Must take back Wisconsin. Must take back Michigan. Must take back Pennsylvania. Bernie's the only one beating Trump. He's up 2 points. Biden is tied to Trump in Wisconsin. Klobuchar tied. Buttigieg tied. Bloomberg losing. Warren losing. Then you have another Wisconsin in the Democratic primary. Bernie is up by 12 points. He's up 12 points, according to this Wisconsin poll, over Michael Bloomberg. Oh, Jesus, I don't even know what's going on there. Then you have Pennsylvania. What did they say? Scranton Joe? Bernie Sanders is the only candidate right now beating Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. Joe, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, Biden, tied. Then you got Colorado, another Super Tuesday state. Bernie's up 12. I mean, if Joe Biden had these numbers, if Pete Buttigieg had these numbers, if Warren had these numbers, if Klobuchar had these numbers, if Joe Lieberman had these numbers, if a walking snail had these numbers, all of the party would be screaming, this is the nominee. But the one person that has these numbers, and I don't want to overhype it either, you know, like Bernie's not beating Trump by 20 in these states. It's still going to be a close race. Trump is going to be tough to defeat. But the bottom line is, currently, compared to the other candidates, he's winning. He's winning. And they're saying, because, you know, they've been right all this time. The same people saying Bernie would lose to Trump, said Iraq would be a leisurely walk. Said Donald Trump, never win the nomination. Donald Trump, Hillary will beat him by 10. The people that are wrong time and time and time again about everything are ignoring the polls and ignoring the will of the people.
I mean, it says a lot. That's why I guess you got to watch more independent media like Status Coup.
Statuscoup.com/join.
But, I mean, honestly, everything I've been doing for the Bernie Sanders campaign has been reaching out to minority communities and disenfranchised voters. And that's how we're doing this. You know, these are people that haven't been involved in any kind of democratic process since Obama because they felt that they weren't being represented. And I don't understand why the establishment there's a huge opportunity here we could take over the House and the Senate if they just got behind Bernie. Like, we're bringing independents, Democrats, and just a swath of new voters, young people, Latinos. It's such a missed opportunity if they don't get on board.
You know, their argument is, well, in 2018, we won back the House with mealy-mouthed, moderate candidates who weren't for Medicare for all. This is the way. And to that, I argue, number one, a big reason, if you look at the data, you won back the House is because more young people came out in 2018. There's more young people that voted in the midterms in 2018 than normally vote. Secondly, Trump lost a whole lot of suburban women. That's not because those suburban women are love, incremental change from the Democratic Party. They were tired of Trump and his disgusting, reprehensible behavior. So this notion that, incrementalist moderates who, are pro for-profit healthcare, pro, fracking, these things is really what the people are dying for. No, every election has different dynamics. A midterm election is different than a presidential election. But last time I checked, and the thing that I love, and by the way, we have a new Status Coup member. Welcome, new Status Coup member, Christopher. We are now 3 members away. 3 members away from 1,600. As a reminder, tomorrow we're going to Columbia, South Carolina. We'll be live from there. Saturday, we'll be live here for primary day. I don't know what's going on, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I will have my eyes and ears to make sure there's not that much fuckery, and we will expose it. Then we're off. We haven't booked a flight yet. Like I said, we got to make money today and tomorrow because we're looking at our expenses, and they are piling up. Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. We went to South Bend before that. We've been to a lot of places. It's not cheap. Unlike some other outlets, I won't say, who say they're going to do a lot of this stuff, but then don't. We're here in the trenches doing it. So thank you for your support. But what's so amazing to me about this is, the Democratic Party forever has been shielding themselves so that they don't have to talk about policy. Black people, Latino people, we need young people. The candidate who brought out, I think Nevada had, it was the most Latinos that ever voted. Iowa, he brought out Latinos, Muslims, and in Iowa, they had more young people come out, 17 to 29, in Iowa than Obama had in 2008. The percentage of the electorate in Iowa that was age 17 to 29 was 24% this time. In 2008, it was 22%. And oh, by the way, in 2008, the caucus was held in January when college kids were actually home. Now, it was held in February when college kids weren't home. So my point is, everything Bernie's been saying, New Hampshire, there wasn't an increase in younger vote. But this is a primary. So you would have to think if it's just Bernie versus Trump, he's already showing that he could expand the electorate. And I love the trick that they keep doing. They keep saying, well, Bernie has a minority of the vote. Because when you add Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Biden, Warren, when you add all of them together, it's more than Bernie. What they leave out, A, that's not how elections work, but B, Biden's voters, their top second choice is Bernie. Warren's voters, their top second choice by a lot is Bernie. So if you want to do math, the majority of those people, if they weren't in, would come to Bernie. So it doesn't work when you sit. Yeah.
So this is something I always found very interesting because you see Democrats and liberals, they talk about they mock Trump supporters, they mock Republicans for having alternative facts, right? But they have their own. And this is why I think what we're doing is super important when we canvassing, because I'm making arguments to people that they never heard before.
Give the audience some insight into what's the majority reaction you're getting from people.
So one thing that, for example, I was at a barbershop today, and one of the main things I was asked is, how does Bernie beat Trump? And you just gave a nice little spiel, pretty much breaking down why Bernie beat Trump. He does better with Trump with independence, and in order to beat someone like Trump, we need a massive movement with young people. And then you got a lot of those polls that came out, a lot of battleground states. One of the things that the barbershop guy asked me, he said he know that it was he had popular policy, but he can't win over the Midwest. So I pretty much shared him. with some of the polls that he went. I said he beat him in a lot of the battleground states that Hillary lost. So this is a damaged state of our media.
Here's some pointers for you. He won the Michigan and Wisconsin primary in 2016.
Yes, absolutely. So I share these things because you never hear it from the media. All you hear from the media is constantly, Bernie's gonna lose, Bernie's gonna call house races, he'll cost us, we got a chance to take him center, we're not gonna have that now with Bernie. So what I tell people, I'm like, man, that's just straight up alternative facts. How do you make fun of Trump supporters? How do you make fun of Republicans when you literally cannot address the common fact that Bernie is up in the polls? So I'll talk to, I'll talk to some lady, I have a lot of success with the black community in particular, young people. We have a great success rate. Now, older white people outside of Bernie's demographic, those people is a struggle. It's a hard battle to win those. I remember I knocked on one door, and the lady saw I had my hat on, I had my blue hoodie on with Bernie on, so I wasn't hiding about who I was supporting. As soon as she saw me, oh no, I don't like Bernie. I don't like Bernie. And it was a visceral reaction. And the reason why she had a visceral reaction was because of media. And luckily, a lot of people here in South Carolina are very friendly. So she gave me a chance to talk to her. I just asked her some simple questions that she never even considered. I'm like, so what is it about Bernie that turns you off the most? I don't know. It's something that he said. I just don't like the way he talked. Is there anything in particular about his policies? There was nothing there. There was no say there. And then she went later. She said, I don't think he would be Trump. I shared some of those stats. I shared the fact that she does well with battleground states. I shared the fact that Bernie won 29 out of the last 30 polls against Trump. I told him what Bernie's strategy is. He went with independents, and he also talked to Trump supporters, and he tell them that the issue isn't with black people, young white people, young Hispanic people. That he's trying to bring a lot of the people in the red states together. That's why you see how Bernie beat Trump in a lot of unexpected states like Texas, like Arkansas, because he make those arguments to the people. And our media is such a state that imagine if we had a media that making the same arguments we make on an everyday basis. Because voters often said that the most important thing for them when it comes to this election is beating Trump. And now you have the media that's telling people constantly, over and over again, that Bernie can't beat Trump. And guess what? There was a poll that came out shortly after the debate that said that Bernie Sanders is still seen as the candidate that has that voters see that has the best chance of being Trump. I think it was up by like 5 points on Biden, if I remember the poll correctly. So Bernie has won over the people with the media constantly saying the exact opposite. That's how strong our argument is, and that's why it's so important that we have a ground team that we have, because that's the only way they hear it. I talked to countless people who never even heard the argument that Bernie could beat Trump. So that's why I think what we were doing here is super important.
Want to give some shout outs. Welcome new Status Coup member Alex. Welcome new Status Coup member David, Christopher, Shane, Justin. We are now one member, just one member away from 1,600. Who's going to be the lucky number one? Statuscoup.com/join. Let's bash this, baby. Let's get to 1,600, and then we'll move on. By the way, we got 1,300 people watching, 1,352 people watching. Only 1,000 of you bums have pressed that like button. I need another 350 of you. Smash that like button. It's the thumbs up button under the live stream. To the 8 of you who disliked you, pshaw. I'd keep the super chats coming, but we need another new member, and then we're going to keep going. So, to me, what's amazing, obviously I'm very different than other media. They all pretend to be neutral. I don't buy that bullshit. Everybody has an opinion. There is no truly unbiased reporter. I think it's better to just be open about your bias. Obviously, you can't distort facts as a journalist. You cannot knowingly be reporting things that are wrong and lying to the audience. But as somebody who, if I'm watching media, I personally would rather know who the person I'm watching, what do they believe? Because then you take it, with whatever grain of salt you want. But what I think is amazing is you made the thing for the media to make the argument. You don't even have to argue anything. All you need to do is show the data. The data is the data. The data is the data from 2016, and the data is the data now. I could do a silent movie and not even say anything and just show the audience these polls. But it's not just the polls that we're seeing today, right? The establishment knows all of this. Nancy Pelosi knows this. Schumer knows this. All of them. Bernie Sanders, it's not just young people he does well with. He does very well among independent voters. These are the voters you need. Yes, you need to bring out your base in a general election, but you need to get the independent voters. That's why in 2016, when the primaries were open, meaning independents could vote, he killed Hillary Clinton in open primaries. That's why in all the closed primaries, that's what they throttled and purged people off the rolls and all this stuff so she could run up the numbers in the closed primaries, because they knew in open primaries she wasn't going to do as well. So he wins independents. At least in Nevada, he cleaned up among moderate voters. In Vermont, where he's a senator, he has traditionally done very well among moderate conservative voters. He won a lot of red states in the Democratic primary in 2016. He won Indiana. He won North Dakota. He won Montana. He won West Virginia. He almost won Kentucky, Montana. I mean, there's a lot of states he won that are red. You could say, well, that was the primary, not the general election, but they're red states. So him winning matters. So I think what's really interesting about what you're saying is yes, canvassing and door knocking is important to beat your candidate, but it's not just like it's the only way that you could break through the corporate media propaganda. That's kind of what it sounds like. You are informing them more than any of the media stations they've been watching.
I mean, you could, on MSNBC Live, there was someone they interviewed that said herself that the reason why she supported Bernie Sanders was because she was disgusted by the media narrative. So they're telling the story themselves there. But I got to say, some of the people I've canvassed don't watch anything. They live in rural areas, and no one else spoke to them. And I think that makes a huge difference. We spoke to people who, I mean, I can tell you a million stories. I was brought to tears several times. Like, it's incredible what you see out there, but just, I also listen. You know, you need to hear what and then at the end of every canvassing, we go back to the office and we talk about it with our organizers, and those things go up the food chain. So this is a real people-powered movement. You know, if the issues that we hear are being sent up the food chain, and it's incredible. Like, I spoke to a lady who lived out of a trailer that had a huge hole in it, and she's not watching MSNBC because she doesn't have power. So just the fact that I reached out to her and talked to her and offered her a ride to the polls, like, these are the things that are going to change this election.
What's interesting, you and I were talking yesterday. You had said to me, you know, Bernie's strategy in Iowa, his campaign, was to go into areas where they never actually have anyone come in. So you were mentioning that you and others were going into certain areas that they say nobody ever comes to talk to us. Can you kind of expand upon that?
I'm talking real rural parts of low country. Like, I was knee deep in mud. It had rained the day before, and we just kept going. And these are like just really poor, forgotten parts of the city.
I feel like they're forgotten too. And just nobody reaches out, and just like people hugging me, just happy to see somebody. I've taken some amazing, like, it's just forgotten people in America that we're not forgetting anymore. Yeah. So one thing that helps me out when I canvass, and one of the reasons why I had a lot of people to ask me this is when I initially start on the door and George can contest, I tell people who I am. I'm with the Sanders campaign, but I tell them that we're going and we want to hear the issues that are important to you. I use that as a kind of a strategy because I know that Bernie has the platform that kind of will take care of their lives more than any other Democratic candidate. And one thing that I love the most about talking to people, especially, like I said, my specialty is talking to the black community. So I love talking to especially older black people that may not be in his demographic. A lot of the poor rural black community that don't, as George mentioned earlier, you're surprised because I'm from Kansas City, he's from New York. We're used to just the internet being there. We're used to the cable being there. But it's a surprising amount of people here that just don't have access to basic information, who are not able to follow independent media. So when I'm making these arguments, and I said it before, they are hearing it for the first time. And one thing that I like to capture the fact that most people in the media, the American people today do not like the media, right? So you see people,
except for status quo.
Yeah. Well, when I'm in the media, I'm talking about the mainstream corporate media where they see on TV. So I kind of feed into that. I'm going to be honest. That's exactly what I do because as much as the Democrats pretend that it's insanity to ever criticize the media. You hear them going after Bernie for being Trumpian for criticizing the media. And I'm like, you can complain all you want. It's a winning strategy. That's how Trump won because the media, based on polls, is more disliked than Donald Trump. So when I talk to people, I know they don't have a good opinion of the media just because unlike a lot of Democrats who have alternative facts. I look at the data. So when I talk to these people, I explain to them what Medicare for All really is, how we will pay for it, how it would be a tax cut for every single family. And I can see them literally the first time they ever hear this information. And then I explain the reason why they didn't hear that information. And I think that really put the cherry on top, because I tell them that the reason why you're not going to hear a lot of these nuanced conversations, I don't, like I mentioned before, I don't insult the voters' intelligence. So I'll well read into the issue, but I explain Medicare for All, I explain progressive tax system, I explain the problem with endless war. Like, they follow politics, and I see that they appreciate that. So then I tell them that the reason why they don't have the information is because our failing public schools that pretty much propagandize us, pretty much the corporate media that refuse to tell the truth. Because when you hear the tax on Bernie, it's a tax, they never represent his ideas properly. It's always some crazy, he's a communist, he's gonna raise taxes. It's always and not like they argument on merits. They don't come out, sit down and say, hey, we don't agree on Medicare for All, this is why. It's always lies. So I explain to people what the reality is, and I tell them that the reason why they don't know that is because the corporate media, they got donors. they get donors from Big Pharma. And like I said, this sounds more wonky than most people would like to have conversations with people by explaining it. And they may not be able to explain it outwardly, but it clicks to them. Because they know. Just because I said most people don't like the media. So once they make the connection that Bernie is a true outsider, and he has the policies that will help their lives, that's how we were able to flip undecided voters that we was able to reach. Because a lot of these people, they gave up on both sides. They stopped voting they stopped voting, period. Because I talked to a ton of people that told me, well, why you support Bernie? Bernie, he's just like anyone else, promise and stuff. Now that's a layup question for me, because I can point to his consistency, the fact that he had no corporate money and no billionaire donors. And we know this, but they don't. They literally never ever hear this argument. And I think that's the biggest damning fact of our media right now, is that the only way our campaign has able to have the results that we had is because of our massive ground game, because we had these conversations. And most importantly, we don't insult the intelligence of the voters.
I want to make a big announcement. Holy cow. We have now passed 1,600 Status Coup members. Welcome, new member Shamus. Welcome, new member Alan, Patrick, Leslie, Alan, Prince. Love it, love it, love it. We are now at 1,605 members. So this is a difficult spot for me, because a lot of times you're urging to the audience, let's get to a certain number. And then you hit the number, and people are like, all right, I'm good. No, we're not good. So thank you to the new members, statuscoup.com/join. By the way, when you become a member, you go to statuscoup.com, click on member content. You'll get the behind the scenes content. Next week, we're going to be having our monthly members call. So it's just you, me, Jen. It's on video, not through YouTube, through Zoom. You don't have to be on video if you don't want. You can mute your video. But we have a lot of fun, questions, comments, concerns. We laugh, we cry. It's wonderful. Statuscoup.com/join. We do that every month with our members. But we got to keep getting signups, because this stuff is not cheap. But it's not only that we need to grow our membership to cover the campaign. We need to grow our membership to hire more people. I mean, I'm only one person, Jen's only one person, Jamal's only one person, and we're working ourselves to the damn bone, down to the bone. We need more marketing help, we need social media help, production help. We want to hire another reporter, so keep signing up. We take no money from bankers, no money from the fossil fuckers, no money from big real estate, no money from big pharma, no money from Silicon Valley, no money from the Democratic Party plutocrats, no money from the Republican Party plutocrats, no money from the Koch brothers, no money from any of those people. So that's why I'm not saying we're like Bernie. I wish. Give me some of that money, Bernie. But we're trying to grow this ground up, just like progressive campaigns like Bernie. So I want to show you a new national poll here. Just came out. Oh, no, that's Monmouth. New national poll, Fox News, which the channel's propaganda, but their polling is usually good. Bernie's up by, I can't do math so well, that would be 20. That's 23 points. Bernie is up. Oh, no. Sorry, scratch that. 18 to 31. That is... Oh, God, I hate 28. 13 points. 13 points. Bernie Sanders is up nationally over Joe Biden. Bernie up 8 since the last time they did this poll, January 22nd. Biden down 8. Then you look at South Carolina. there's been a bunch of polls that came out today. I'm going to focus on Monmouth because the other ones I've never heard of them, so I don't take it that seriously. Monmouth poll has Biden at 36, Bernie at 16. So a lot of people are freaking out this morning. Wait a minute, how is that possible? Because NBC Marist just had it basically Biden up by 4. And now Monmouth, who the entire campaign, I've been pointing out, Monmouth and Quinnipiac are the worst polls, particularly for Bernie, because they generally go to senior centers, senior homes, and only talk to older people. So Jen went through this poll. Biden's up in the poll, but no doubt about that. But the margin of errors are wild. I mean, the margin of errors for black voters, I think, was 7 points. The margin of error for white voters was 9 points. They oversampled older people. Almost 60% of those polled were over the age of 50. I believe 43% of those polled were under the age of 50. So you have a poll that sampled more older people than younger people. The margin of error for black voters, which is very key in South Carolina, was very large. So my gut, obviously you're probably a little biased based on the doors you're knocking. My gut is Biden right now is leading in South Carolina, but I don't think it's by 13 points, not based on other polls that show it a lot closer. So the difference, it seems, will be in those who probably aren't showing up on polls, those that you're knocking on doors, in trailer parks, in parts of South Carolina that don't get talked to a lot. I actually have been told that they're not a big community, but there's a small Latina community in South Carolina. So obviously Biden seems to be doing better among older black people. I'm going to get into why Biden is doing better among older black people. It has something to do with the guy's a fucking serial liar and the media doesn't call him out on it. But can you kind of talk about, do you think it's going to come down to not just younger black voters, but kind of the organizing you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've spoken to a few people. This one, I called him like a community leader. And he...
Sorry. 3 new members. Welcome, new member Jacob, Stephen, Lonnie. That is now 1,608. 1,608 Status Coup members. Keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. I know I'm rude, but I had to.
No, you're doing the job. So I spoke to, I'd call him a community leader who says he has a meeting before any election and gets about 500 people together and they talk about who they're going to vote for. And for the first time, he said he's not going to have that meeting, which I thought was a good thing because I thought he'd be a solid Biden supporter. And after our conversation, he said, I like everything Bernie's about. I'm just worried about down ballot tickets. And telling my organizer that I spoke to this person later on that day, turns out that person called the organizer. So maybe I think these conversations are doing something. I don't know if we're going to win. I really hope we do, but we're not losing by double digits. That's definitely not happening.
Well, I think this right now, and I don't want to minimize what you guys are doing at all, but this primary in South Carolina is one of those rare things where it's like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's not the only thing to focus on. Because when you have a national primary with 14 states 3 days later, it's kind of like, all right, we want Bernie to win here, but the bigger picture is he might, even if he, let's say he loses South Carolina by 7 to 10 points. Okay, Biden will get to declare I'm back, and hopefully he can get through his victory speech, coherently. But there's only 3 days, so it's not like even if he had a bounce of it out, a lot of these states are already voting. California, large number of the state already voting. Bernie's up huge in California. Texas, a lot of early voting. Other states, a lot of early voting. So a lot of these states are already voting, whereas the South Carolina result wouldn't have that much of an impact. And South Carolina tends to be, the Democratic electorate is, I think, 60% black. What I have found outrageous this week, and just in general, and I'd love to get your thoughts, if Bernie Sanders lied about what he had for breakfast, it would be an apocalyptic shitstorm all across the media. In a matter of a week, Joe Biden has lied multiple times in churches in front of black people, in the debate, in the town halls. He has said he was arrested in South Africa during apartheid on his way to meeting Nelson Mandela. He has said that Nelson Mandela, when he met him, thanked him for being arrested. He has lied about participating in civil rights sit-ins for decades. CNN had him on for a town hall. Chris Cuomo did not mention it once. Craig Melvin of NBC had him on, I think, for an interview this morning. Not a word. They know about this. The New York Times did a story on it. It was kind of mild, but it was a story. The Washington Post did a fact check on it. It wasn't what it would have been if it was Bernie, but at least it's out there. But for Biden, and I think what you're saying is so true. How many black voters do you think know about this? I'd say 2%.
South Carolina, they have no idea about the scandals. And you make a good point earlier. We've been running this entire campaign, and that's why when I see those national polls, it's made me super happy, because not only about our campaign, the future of the movement, the power of our message, is that despite we have a giant media handicap. I remember someone mentioned before, I wish I can give him credit, but he said the MSNBC might as well come out as an official super PAC for Elizabeth Warren. I probably was you for Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, because that's essentially what they've been. We pretty much had to beg the media to vet Michael Bloomberg. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a scenario where sexual harassment claims came out with Bernie Sanders? It would be over. It would be over just like that. Can you imagine a situation where Bernie Sanders faked black endorsements? He wouldn't go through one interview without being asked about that. Can you imagine if Bernie Sanders was asked by the NAACP and Black Lives Matters, like Amy Klobuchar, they asked her to drop out, and you never ever hear her talk about it. He sees me because we've been staying together for a while. I watch these town halls. Like I said, this is the most corporate media I watch down here, just so I can stay in post. But I watch it, and I'm literally tearing my hair out because I know I did my Oppo research. I know what these candidates are lacking, and when you talk to these people at the doors, they have no idea. They have absolutely no idea. They have no idea about what the crime bill means, what Joe Biden pushed for. They don't know the fact that Bernie Sanders stood on the floor and predicted all the things that went wrong with the crime bill. What you see around here is people don't have and it's a failure on the part of the media, because they always pat themselves on the shoulder as the fourth estate, right? Democracy dies in darkness. Meanwhile, Washington Post and New York Times, they keeping people in the dark by refusing to ask these questions, by refusing to actually vet the candidates, which I find is hilarious, because you see, what's one thing you hear from a lot of centrist people? Bernie hasn't been vetted yet. Now Bernie is going to get vetted. He's going to drop in polls. Meanwhile, it was the exact opposite. Bernie has been vetted ever since he hit the national scene. They constantly throwing everything they have at him. Peter Dow, he's a recent Bernie supporter who flipped. He was a big supporter of Hillary Clinton. He said, and you believe it when you see the attacks that he landed on him now. He saw the Oppo research on Bernie in 2016. They have nothing else. That's why what they lead to doing now. They got to attack our supporters. They go after Bernie bros. They go after toxic Bernie bros, or they do that because they can't attack the candidate or on anything else. Meanwhile, you got candidates, as you mentioned before, they got all these scandals. They're constantly lying to the media, and they get passed for it. Meanwhile, the media makes up fake controversies about him being sexist against Elizabeth Warren that are weak. And I think you see it. That's why a lot of people don't trust the media no more. I think people are smarter than what the political establishment leaves on. They see how desperate they are to attack Bernie. They see that when you see a Bernie town hall, it's completely, the way they organize Bernie town halls is how I would love for them to treat every other candidate. If it wasn't for how easy they was on anyone else, I would have absolutely no issue how they treat Bernie. Because when Bernie get in there, they ask him about his policies. For the most part, they may ask bad questions about like how you gonna pay for it, but they ask them policy questions. You never hear them ask Pete Buttigieg or Joe Biden how much their healthcare plan will cost. They will never ask Joe Biden what will be the human cost of his healthcare plan. And I saw a study, you may have to correct me on this, but I saw that the death total, because they had a study that came out that said 68,000 people will die right now. Actually, I don't want to say, I don't remember the number on top of my head, but there was a study that came out when Biden released his plan where there was like X amount of people going to die on this plan. Why doesn't the media ever cover that? Why doesn't the media ever ask Joe Biden, what would be the cost of your healthcare plan in terms of people dying? And Pete Buttigieg's plan, the public option doesn't save any money like Medicare for All is, but you never see them ask those tough questions. Bernie get live tough questions, unfair questions, I think a lot of them are, but I wish every single candidate would have those same kind of questions that he had to deal with. Because if they did, I think we wouldn't have to worry about broker convention. If they was covered the same way that Bernie Sanders is covered, I think it would be a washout. It would be a complete washout.
Well, I think, and remember, keep pressing the like button and keep signing up. We're two members away from 1,610. So let's keep getting signups. Statuscoup.com/join. Keep signing up. Amazing. I think there's an element here that the media will not talk about publicly. I have spoken with some journalists that work at corporate outlets privately. They're talking about it privately, but let's just keep it real here. There's only two options with Joe Biden. One option is he's a serial liar. The other option is he's not well cognitively.
Well, you didn't mention the greatest lie of all. He said he was running for Senate.
Yes. So Joe Biden, in a speech the other day, said, I'm Joe Biden and I'm running for United States Senate, which CNN didn't cover it, MSNBC didn't cover it. So there's two options here. Both are terrible, but one is worse. If you want to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt, if you want to say he's not lying, but he's misunderstanding things, his mind isn't well, we've seen enough evidence. I've said for 6 months, listen, I'm not going to diagnose him. I'm not a doctor, but I have eyes. Something's not, something's not registering here. He's forgetting where he is. This, by the way, we saw him as vice president. He didn't stutter like this. Yes. These are not stutters. He's losing track of his thoughts. He's losing track of the point he wants to make. He's preemptively stopping his own time talking. He's constantly saying, oh, my time's running out. So the graver risk, the media, while covering up these things he's saying that are blatant lies, let's say he's just not well cognitively and he's misremembering things. You want to put this guy on the stage against Donald Trump?
Exactly. So what really shocking to me when you see the decline that Joe Biden has, which is undeniable when you see him. Because I actually watched, it was not too long ago, I saw a clip. I almost forgot how good Joe Biden is. Joe Biden actually a pretty underrated debater. I saw when he debated Paul Ryan in 2012, he crushed him. And when you watch that interview, when you watch that debate, he's sharp as a tack. So despite all the issues that Joe Biden has with his record and the fact that he may say some gas every once in a while, he is back when he was in his prime, he was a really well-coached machine when he debated people. And now you see on the debate stage now, it's ridiculous. You can tell that he knows what he wants to say, he just don't have the ability to say it. The one that caught my attention, and this is when I started, I don't got no love for Joe Biden, but this is when I started feeling bad for him, when he forgot Barack Obama's name. He was like, President, my boss. This is a big part of your life. You're the vice president of Barack Obama. You forget his name? So when I saw that, I knew there was something really going on with Biden, and I think they always I think Trump has that as well. Because you see, when Donald Trump would talk to people, I saw an interview with him not too long ago when he was discussing Obama, Pelosi, all that kind of stuff. Sharper than he is now. I mean, he was never like sharp at the tack like Biden probably was, but he sounded completely different. So can you imagine a general election where you have broken brain Trump versus broken brain Joe Biden? Because I almost forgot that Trump had a little bit of charisma to him. I saw that interview. I really believe it was 2012 where compared to now, he sounds amazing. But now, so I just laugh whenever I think of that image, where I think about Donald Trump slurring through his debates, his debate attacks on Biden, and then you have Biden might challenge him to a push-up contest. It's gonna be a shit show of massive proportions.
Asking for the lowest turnout in American history.
Yeah, can you imagine the debate between Bloomberg versus Trump, Biden versus Trump? You got Bloomberg making corny jokes. Like, he was doing, it wasn't even like debating, it was bad stand-up comedy. He was doing last debate where he was like, well, I know you guys I can't believe you guys came back, even though I destroyed you guys, even though he took a pounding. So it's like you have two guys who I call very Trumpian. I love this term. Bernie won 2016. She's the one that said it first. She said she made blue MAGA. Because what's the real difference between Bloomberg and Trump? Exact same policy.
Bloomberg's a real billionaire. Yeah, Bloomberg's a real billionaire. Trump's a fake billionaire.
Yeah. And this is something else you don't hear from me. We're begging these people to vet him. So when Bloomberg had his rise in the polls, and you can add George's, there were some people that were a little bit nervous about that, just because you buying so many ads. You saw him go up in polling in South Carolina. But I said from day one, I was super happy when I saw Bloomberg rise to the polls. Because can you imagine? There's not a better matchup for Bernie Sanders to go one-on-one against in the nomination, because it's like a warm-up. We find baby Trump versus before we get to the real Trump. Because you, at least when you got Trump, you have someone who have a massive loyal base of support, right? And he's good, whether liberals want to admit or not. He's really good at throwing jabs out. He's really good at making nicknames. He gets his audience laughing. Honestly, he made me laugh a little bit. So you have Bloomberg, who had the same controversies as Trump, the sexual harassment, the racism, the oligarchy, but he's not charismatic. And you saw that on the debate stage. He's an amateur.
What's incredible to me is they've been trying to do this Russiagate Cold War stuff, right? With Bernie, that Russia's trying to help Bernie, which was absurd. Michael Bloomberg refuses to call the president of China a dictator. The president of China is a dictator. I mean, that's just an objective fact. They don't even have elections. So Michael Bloomberg, who will not call the president of China a dictator because he does a lot of business in China, so he doesn't want to hurt his business interests. But Bernie says, yeah, Fidel Castro was terrible, but he did teach Cubans how to read. Oh my God, tyranny that he said that. This is the continued hypocrisy and selective outrage of the bourgeoisie, because they don't give a damn that Obama went and played footsie with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. They don't care that Obama went and met with the tyrant king of Jordan. They don't care about that. They don't care that, Nancy Pelosi went and hung out with Putin in her first speakership. I mean, JFK met with Khrushchev. Should we chop his head off 60 years later? It's like they don't care if the leaders of the Democratic Party are nice to brutal dictators that are good for our business interests. It's those that will not give us their oil that are tyrants. It's those that will not give their natural resources that are the evil. All of these Democratic leaders were just clapping for Juan Guaido, the fake president of Venezuela, who is a far-right lunatic. So spare me on this Cuba fear-mongering. I want to get back to South Carolina. And remember, keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. I'm going to get greedy now. I'm going to get greedy. Can we hit 1,700 members? Can we hit 1,700 members by the time of the South Carolina primary? That's 2 days away. Right now, we're at 1,608 Status Coup members. So if I'm good at math, that's 92 more of you souls. We need 92 more. And why it's important is I think we play some part in waking up the masses. I think because I do get messages sometimes from, not Peter Dow, but those kinds of people who are generally neoliberal, but are starting to learn information they didn't know before. My father, who's a deranged Donald Trump supporter, I'm getting him a little soft on Bernie right now. My father calls me today, and my father, I love him, but he's total lunatic when it comes to politics. Loves Trump only because of Israel. My dad is a crazy zealot about Israel. He thinks God gave Israel the land. He's one of those. So he says, I would vote for Bernie, but he's not pro-Israel. I said, what do you mean he's not pro-Israel? He's talking about moving the embassy back to Tel Aviv. I said, who gives a shit if he moves the embassy back to Tel Aviv? It shouldn't have been moved in the first place. Then I got yelled at for 10 minutes that I said that. But the point is, my father is starting to get a little soft on Bernie because he's realizing, like, oh, my parents have a small business. It's not exactly booming under Trump. They were told the economy is going to be great under Trump. And my father likes that Bernie is consistent. A lot of people might not even agree with Bernie's policies, but they know he's not full of shit. And they like that he's consistent. And that is a winning message. Let me tell you something. There was a lot of people that didn't vote for Trump because they like Trump. It was an anti-Hillary vote. I met so many people in 2016 that said, Trump's awful, but I can't vote for Hillary Clinton. So I think what you're and I'd like to hear more, what you're finding is once you knock on that door, once they open, once you break through the propaganda and have to kind of rewire their brains from what they've been told, they're actually pretty open to expanded Social Security. They're actually pretty open to these things. Can you kind of talk about once you are telling them about Bernie's platform, what's the response you get?
The Spanish Social Security one, that's the one I kind of learned to implement a little bit later on, because I told the story about that older white lady who saw me, and she was initially super anti-Bernie. One of the reasons why she kind of flipped, she didn't say she was going to support Bernie, but one of the reasons why she said she will look a little bit more into him, because I mentioned that we will raise Social Security, which is why I always leave it, and whenever I'll try and help people with canvassing, I tell them, leave open-ended questions. You want them to tell you what's important for them, right? So I remember I met some lady outside. She was in a trailer park. I think I'll show you that picture. And when I first saw her, she was asking what's going on. She don't really follow news that much. She didn't even know there was even an election. She, once again, a lot of rural people in the area that don't follow news as much. So once I explained Bernie, and I said, what's so important going to you right now, she mentioned the fact that she had cancer. So I'll mention Medicare for all, and once again, I don't insult their intelligence. I tell them that every other country, like in Europe and Asia, they have free healthcare, and they spend half as much as we do. I explain to her about prescription medicine, and not only that, I talk about preventative care as well. I go deep into these issues, and then, as I mentioned before, the reason why I tell them, one thing I always want to make clear is that Bernie is the only one with no corporate money, who take no corporate billionaire money. The reason why I do that, because there's a strong, whether Democrats want to admit it or not, there's a very, very strong anti-establishment feel in the country right now. So what I tell people, and George can attest, I say right now, and this is something I know since 16, I think we're in a political realignment right now. So in the 60s, there was a big political realignment at the time. So when people in the 60s, there wasn't like, oh man, we're going through a political realignment. It's something that kind of happened. You look back at it and you realize it. So when I saw 16, I'm like, man, there's a massive political realignment happening right now, because I know people who I didn't know a lot of Trump supporters in my life, but I know people that supported Bernie Sanders who couldn't give a fuck about voting for Hillary Clinton against Trump. I know a ton of people who's enthusiastic about voting for Bernie who stayed home. So I voted for Joe Stein, and I hear people attack me about that all the time. How can you vote for Joe Stein? How can you vote for Joe Stein? I said, Joe Stein had nothing to do with Trump winning, because if it weren't for Joe Stein, I probably wouldn't vote either, because there's a lot of people that feel both ways, that the Democrat Party and the Republican Party abandoned them. So when I had the conversation with people when I canvass, one of the main pushbacks I get, because they hear the platform, I explain it to them, they say, how do I know that Bernie's going to fight for that? That's a layup question, I like to call it. Because then I explain the interest. And I say something that I wish Bernie is more willing to say, that the reason why Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg is against Medicare for all is because they bought out. So even the people that watch the news, they don't hear it, because unfortunately Sanders is a very nice guy who don't like going on the offensive. So when I explain to these, I think it really breaks it open, because I see people that realize that there's a lot possible in politics that they didn't even think possible. Like after seeing my journey, a lot of my people in my family, they was apolitical, for example. I got a message from my sister a few days ago, because she saw a lot of videos I've been uploading, a lot of the chats I have with the black community. I have a video where I went to a black barbershop and I gave a speech, and my sister sent me a text. She said, I didn't even know that this foreign politics was even possible. She was apolitical. She told me that she always thought it didn't matter who she support, because at the end of the day, they would both be on the same team. So when she heard the message that we bring a poor people campaign, rejecting corporate money, and this is the platform we had, she like, oh, I didn't even know that's even possible. So this is how you get people in. This is how you win. I heard that my entire life. Democrats say we gotta win when we get young people that use their own vote, and we have a platform that's wanting to do that. So when I see them go after Sanders the way they do, I question their strategy, as I mentioned earlier, because honestly, I talk to a lot of people as well. I know a lot of people that works in the campaign as well, that say, and this is something I mentioned as well, Bernie is a compromise candidate. If Bernie doesn't win, there's going to be a tipping point that happens. Especially, I think the economy might crash here soon. I'm pretty sure you probably follow that as well. So when that crash happens, and when you see people that continue, when income inequality go up high enough, there's eventually going to be that breaking point. France, fortunately, they hit that all the time. And they call that the yellow vest movement, right? So this is the last chance, really, that the Democratic establishment has to pull these voters back in, because there are people that will, like I said, I'll make it public. If Bernie wins, I will vote blue down ballot to help get that policy platform implemented. And can you imagine all the new voters we will get that will support Bernie who will vote blue down ballot, which is attack the point they make earlier. If Bernie wins, we're gonna lose House and Senate races. That don't even make sense on face value. The only guy who has more donations than Donald Trump is gonna lose House and Senate. The guy who's doing best with independents is going to lose the House and Senate to Trump. Doesn't make sense. So once again, this is a conversation I have with people, and I explain I explain Bernie's plan to get it done as well, and I see their eyes light up because I tell them that Bernie said he's going to be an organizer in chief. He's not just some guy who's just having plans. Because what Obama did, and I go in black neighborhoods. I'm lucky I'm black. I can say this. So I tell people Obama had good ideas. And then he got in the White House, and then you saw he had a Affordable Care Act battle where they pretty much just gave up the public option with very little fight. So he proposed a good idea. It will get struck down, and Obama will wipe his hands. Like, sorry guys, I did my best. Well, I tell people Bernie's strategy is different. We're seeing a unique politician because he said, as an organizer in chief, he's gonna rally people together and hit the streets like we're supposed to. Like we did in the civil rights movement, like we do in the women's suffrage movement, like we did in the gay rights movement. So when I tell these people, it's a long way. I make a joke on Twitter all the time how I talk too damn much when I canvass, but I think it's necessary because when I explain all these factors and I don't insult their intelligence, I see it click. I see people that don't care about politics start to care about politics. So that's why I'm very passionate about this campaign.
I want to make a few final points. Number one, you need a YouTube channel. I got a couple viewers saying, does this guy have a YouTube channel? So Progressive Martial Artist is his YouTube channel. So great stuff. I want to before we end, I want to remind you, keep signing up. We are 92 members away from 1,700. If we get to 1,700, boo! I might have to go like ride a bull at one of these bars here. I want to ask a few lightning round questions to wrap this up. And Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, who has invented black support here in South Carolina, not once, not twice, but on 3 different occasions, Pete Buttigieg has invented that he had the support of black lawmakers here, black businesses. Right now, I think he's polling at 3% among black people here in South Carolina. Somehow he's still sending out commercials that he has the broadest coalition. I mean, I'm not, who knows, but do you think he's going to break double digits here in South Carolina? And more importantly, how do we get this guy not only to drop out of the election, but to just stop talking? Because it pains, I don't like Joe Biden, but I don't like Pete Buttigieg more, because at least Joe Biden somewhat believes his bullshit. Pete Buttigieg, he's like he's in a lab. He was made out of a lab, and it's a CIA lab, it's a Center for American Progress lab, it's like a Heritage Foundation lab. It's just one big lab of right-wing, neoliberal, CIA, and everything that comes out of his mouth seems like it was fed to him by consultants.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen Manchurian Candidate, but there's like a code word that activates Pete Buttigieg. But actually, I forgot all about him until you mentioned him, because I've been canvassing for 2 weeks, and people say I'm undecided between Biden or Steyer and Bernie. It was always someone in Bernie, but it was never Pete.
Never.
And maybe it's just because we're in minority neighborhoods and they seem to know that he's a fraud, but there's not much to say about Pete because he wasn't relevant in South Carolina to anyone I canvassed to.
And I want to bring it back to Elizabeth Warren. We spoke about her earlier. And by the way, welcome new member Jacob. 1,609 members, 91 members from 1,700. So Elizabeth Warren, I think it's do or die time here. You know, I'm not a church-going fella. I'm not a religious fella. But I believe in the art of forgiveness, you know? I think forgiveness, let's not be such heinous people that we never forgive. Elizabeth Warren sold out Bernie in 2016. She left the people of Standing Rock to fend for themselves, didn't say a word. 2020, she didn't stab Bernie in the back, she stabbed him in the front. She breaches a private conversation, she feeds a bunch of crap to the media. Now she's going after him, saying, you know, his supporters are terrible and this, that. I think Elizabeth Warren, listen, it looks like she's going to come in a distant 4th or 5th place here. She doesn't exactly have a lot of black support. To me, I mean, I don't say this in a disrespectful way, but she's not a young woman. She's 70, so I don't think she's planning on being senator for, you know, another 20 years here. But if she lost here by a lot, do you really want to risk getting embarrassed in your home state 3 days later? So do you think that there is a chance of her dropping out? It just seems like, I don't know. If I was a politician, I wouldn't want to risk the embarrassment of losing my home state. But is her plan and her people feeding her this plan, which is a lot of Hillary. Remember, a lot of Hillary Clinton's old campaign is Elizabeth Warren's campaign now. Are they feeding to her this sinister plot? Just hang in. It doesn't matter if you win any states. Hang in, and we'll get you through at a brokered convention. Do you think she might drop out?
That would be the smart move for her to do, but as we've seen, Warren does not have good political instincts. So the smart move to do would for her to be drop out as soon as possible, but since that's the smart move, I'm assuming she'll do the opposite and take it to the convention. So this is a theory I had, and it's a theory I continue to hold up, because I did my research into Warren's campaign strategy. I looked at the beginning of January, and I saw that she didn't lay a glove on Joe Biden since then. And now, do you remember the debates early on, when she thought she had a chance to actually win, she was aggressively going after Joe Biden. And look through her tweets. I ain't looked in the last few weeks, but as of January 1st through like probably the beginning of February, she has not said one negative thing about Joe Biden. And now what happens? You have Bloomberg that entered the race, and Joe Biden start going after Bloomberg because Bloomberg started taking Joe Biden's support. And now all of a sudden, you see a candidate who only attacked Bernie, who was usually mostly hands off, she started attacking Bloomberg. She started going after Bloomberg very, very aggressive, and she's kind of laid off by Bernie. So you gotta ask yourself, why she do that? She did that because I honestly think, and this is just my prediction, just like Elizabeth Warren made a deal with Hillary Clinton in 2016 to become vice president, I honestly think she made a deal with Joe Biden to be his vice president. Because if you look at his move, I ask you what her strategy is. It doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. She alienated the progressive base by stabbing Bernie in the back. You got moderates who would never vote for Warren in the first place. So she in no man's land. So she don't have a path to victory unless a super delegates choose her. But I really think she's the attack dog Joe Biden now. I want to see what you kind of think about that, because this is something I noticed, and I'm very curious to go through her tweets again, because it's been about 2 or 3 weeks. But I looked at every single one. Not one attack on Joe Biden ever since the beginning of this year.
Have you just been watching my channel and ripping off my comments? I've been saying all this weeks ago. It's very odd to me, and I don't want to leave my friend out here. People are like, let you talk more. I've been trying to, but this guy's so long. This guy's so long-winded. I can't get him to shut up. So Elizabeth Warren entered politics, for those of you that remember, going after Joe Biden. She went to Senate hearings she wasn't a senator, going after Biden over the bankruptcy bill. Biden was the main reason she even got into politics. But on the campaign trail, crickets. I don't even think she went after him that hard in the beginning. She barely laid a glove on Joe Biden. When given the opportunities, when debate moderators have kind of teed her up to go after Biden, she hasn't. So it makes you wonder, on one end, you think, all right, her campaign told her to go after Bloomberg because it will give her a big bounce. Didn't give her a big bounce. It was too close. There wasn't enough time after that debate before Nevada. But she's had so many opportunities to go after Biden, and she refuses to, over the bankruptcy bill, over a lot of things. And you would think not only would she go after Biden over that, but she would go after him over the bankruptcy bill because it would make her look good, because she she is an expert on that. So one has to wonder, how bad are her political instincts? Because if those are her political instincts, to not go after Biden because you think he's going to be VP, you think you could be his VP. Are you not paying attention to the fact that this man can't finish a sentence? Are you not paying attention to the fact that sometimes it looks like he's running in 1995? So if she actually believes that her best play has been try to be his vice president, then she is wrongly assuming he's going to win. Put aside politics, it doesn't look like this guy could. And by the way, Trump's not exactly like a spring chicken, but at least he's not forgetting where he is at this point. At least he's not saying, I'm Donald Trump and I'm running for on the real estate board of Queens, you know? So to me, it would not shock me actually if Elizabeth Warren, if she gets destroyed here, drops out the next day, because I just don't see. You got to remember, Marco Rubio, for example, he dropped out the next day, but he's still young, so he might want to run for president again. He didn't want to be embarrassed. But Elizabeth Warren, she's 70, but she lives there. You got to show your face in town. she wants to set herself up to be considered vice president, but are you that big of an asset if you lost your home state? So I think, I'm not predicting it, but I would not be surprised if she dropped out. To me, the biggest thing to watch for South Carolina, honestly, is what you guys are talking about. How many older African Americans has Bernie Sanders' campaign been able to convince? Because I don't believe the media's narrative that they're all with Biden. Bernie has taken a lead in some national polls among black voters nationally. I think some of those are from South Carolina. And I would say, lastly, I think a lot of South Carolina black people, from what I've heard, they're not even aware there is a primary. There's a lot of lack of awareness that there even is a primary. And I've seen that in other states too. So really it comes down to who has the biggest ground game. It's not Joe Biden. His campaign is not organized. Who has the biggest ground game? It's certainly not Pete Buttigieg, who's making it up as he went along. Do you think it comes down to who's better organized?
It has to. I mean, I think the Elizabeth Warren campaign is just a perfect example of the Democratic establishment and the consultant class just failing completely in just addressing the concerns of the people. They're just either they're not listening or woefully ignorant. Like, it's incredible that it's like the Beto O'Rourke campaign. This guy could have been running for Senate right now, doing something big, trying to help flip a seat. And instead he runs for president because some guys from, I think, Pod Save America told him to or something. Like, this is nonsense. They're not listening to the people. And it's just clear. I mean, our field organizer told us that in 2016, only 30% of South Carolina's, I think, was it the black population or just all of them, were canvassed at all. So just no one's talking to the people on the ground. And not only are we talking to them, but we're listening and we're relaying everything upstairs.
Welcome new status Coup member Patrick. Now 90 members. I believe in a dream. 90 members. We could hit 90 more members by Saturday to hit 1,700. I want to get out of South Carolina with 1,700 members, because you know what happens after 1,700? It's like when you're running a race, you know, you see that final destination. Not that 2,000 members is our final destination. We got a long ways to go. The beauty of status Coup, there's no ceiling. When you're not reliant on advertising, when you're not relying on corporate fat cats, when you're not reliant on clicks, when you're reliant on the people, you have no ceiling. You could keep on growing and keep on growing. But what I think is really important here, the media, even if Joe Biden wins by 2 or 3, the media will play it up. But really, to me, I'm not as focused on, I don't want to upset Bernie people, I'm not really as focused on if he wins. I'm focused on how much does he lose by. Because if Biden only wins by, let's say, 4 or 5 points, he's not going to get the number of delegates he needs to actually get back into this. Because he's going to get his ass kicked in California. Bernie's up by 10, I saw. Most of California has a lot of California has early voted. Texas, even if Biden wins, it's not going to be by a lot. And the reason Hillary Clinton won in 2016, besides the DNC screwing Bernie Sanders, she won big in a lot of these states we're talking about. She won big in South Carolina, so she started getting a lot more delegates. She won big in Texas, so you start getting a lot more delegates. But even if Biden is winning, if he's only winning by 3 or 4 percentage points, the way the Democratic primary works, proportionally, which it shouldn't, it should just be winner takes all, he's not going to have enough delegates to make a dent. So then it comes down to the rest of the race. And I say the more Joe Biden you see, the better for Bernie Sanders. So do you, final go around, do you think there's something to be, obviously you want him to win, you're here knocking on doors. But if he doesn't win, but it's relatively, I mean, you asked Bernie 4 months ago, hey, would you take 5-point loss in South Carolina? They'd be streaking. So if he loses by only a little, on the grand scheme of things, with Super Tuesday in 3 days, that's a really bad blow for Biden. It'll be a good little sugar high. He'll get some money in fundraising, but he won't get the delegates he needs, and it doesn't look like he's going to do that great on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, what brought me to South Carolina in the first place, because I wasn't delusional. I knew that South Carolina was going to be a very, very hard state to win. We saw the early polling results, and knowing that the black community was a big part of the Democratic establishment here, that's what decided made me go down here. But just because when I was in Kansas City, I was talking to a lot of black people, and I had no one else left in my circle to convert, because I saw how easy it was to convert them. So how it would be amazing if we won South Carolina. If we won South Carolina, I think the race is over at that point. But my end goal was to try and convert as many black people and increase turnout. And there's something else, like, I'm very, very biased, because if you look at the poll, if you look at common sense, obviously Biden will win. But man, when you canvass out here, you get your hopes up, because you talk to people. I remember I was with my friend Jay. We was walking around a very poor neighborhood. I talked to some guy, and he didn't really know who Bernie was. And we went over the platform. He really liked the legalized marijuana part of it. And once I explained the platform, he like, yo, I'm gonna tell everybody about that. We never vote. We never vote. But he like, give me. We had our literature. We passed it out. He like, give me all that. I'm gonna pass it around my neighborhood. I'm gonna pass it around my schools. I see this. That's not the only conversation I had. I keep having these conversations with people that said they don't vote, that they want to come out and vote for Bernie. So this is a caveat I always tell people that follow me on Twitter. I tell them, I'm telling you what I see on the ground. I'm really not trying to get your hopes up. But this is what I'm seeing on the ground. I'm not seeing. I see zero P supporters, zero Amy Klobuchar supporter, very, very little. I probably a handful of Warren supporters. Honestly. And like I said, I don't want to get anyone hopes up.
We're talking hundreds of doors.
I mean hundreds and hundreds of doors. If my polling was accurate, my personal polling based on what I'm doing canvassing wise, Biden wouldn't be viable. I'm not running into Biden supporter. So I tell people to please don't get your hopes up when I say this. The only thing I can do is report I'm seeing on the ground. When I was on the ground the first two weeks, it was a lot of undecided voters. A lot of people that not paying attention to the primary. So I was able to flip those voters. And something I noticed over the last week here is I see there are a lot more people that had their mind made up already. Right? So I know when I start running more Biden supporters. I started running through more people that had concerns about Bernie electability. Because when I first started, it was very vague. But now I see people who have legitimate concerns are starting to pay attention. So my only hope, and this is what I tell people, if we have a massive voting turnout, don't be surprised if you see anything crazy, because this is what I'm hoping for.
I want to say a little breaking news, which I find absolutely disgusting. Jamal, put this right here. Elizabeth Warren, the candidate who said, I'm not for super PACs, the candidate who said, I'm against super PACs corruption, Warren's super PAC is now putting $9 million into Super Tuesday states. Warren likely now has the biggest super PAC of the cycle. Persist PAC placed $9 million in advertising in San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Bakersfield, California, Santa Barbara, California, Monterey, California, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts. What this indicates, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 California areas. This goes to what we're talking about here. Her campaign strategy is to, it doesn't matter if we're going to win any states, run up the delegates as much as she can. California has the most delegates, I believe over 400 of any state. So they're trying to basically grease the wheels here, get as many delegates, even if she comes in second or third, so she can make the argument, and to me, steal it from Bernie at the nomination, at the convention. But really, broader than this, you know, I don't really respect Joe Biden per se, but I respect someone that's just openly neoliberal. I respect somebody who's just openly neoliberal, openly corrupt. He don't care. I'm flying around the country. I'm playing footsie with Wall Street. I'm doing more fundraisers with bankers and all these people than I'm doing events, and he's fine with it. Fine. At least I know thy enemy. Yes. Elizabeth Warren, who had no conviction in 2016, sat it out, wouldn't endorse Bernie, didn't say a word about, you know, the people getting shot at, pepper sprayed, tear gassed at Standing Rock. Now, literally 2 debates ago, makes a big thing. Amy and I are the only ones without a super PAC, which was nonsense because Bernie doesn't have a super PAC. They're trying to make Our Revolution into a super PAC. It just came out. It came out the other day that Our Revolution, the biggest donation it ever got was $5,000 last year. So, hold on. Jen said to check my phone. Status Coup, I give you this because I'm sparing, $200. Holy cow, Delphini. I give you this because I'm sparing the $200 to register my mom, and I buy signing up to signing up the two of us. I'm working extra time just to be able to do that. This is the woman from France who translates our shows for her mom. I only know oui. I only know oui from France. But God bless you. God bless you for translating our show in French. I'm going to find somebody to do that so you don't have to, because that's incredible. Say hi to your mom. I'd love to come to France. I spent 9 hours there in Paris once and got wasted. Thank you for the $200. That's incredible. That generosity is a huge, huge help. In Super Chat, you could also donate to PayPal, paypal.me/statuscoup. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So, one more. Hold on. Also, a couple more members. Thank you for signing up. Jay and Nicholas. We are now at 1,611 Status Coup members. 89 away from 1,700. So, I guess what I'm getting at here, I don't have to guess who Nancy Pelosi is. She's a resistance faux progressive, right? But at least, she don't hide that she goes and has cocktails with the bourgeoisie. Joe Biden, he don't hide it. This is who I am. I'm a corrupt, moderate Democrat, or whatever, moderate. Elizabeth Warren, 2 weeks ago, I think still on her website, it says, I will disown super PACs. Her super PAC is spending $9 million. And by the way, the women, 4 women, were supposed to just say, it's fine because it's women. No, it's not fine. The 4 women running her super PAC, one of them was a big wig on Hillary Clinton's super PAC in 2016. She was also the former policy director of Emily's List, who is anti-Medicare for all. Emily's List is anti-Medicare for all. The other woman, the second woman that's running her super PAC, used to run the DCCC, which is wildly corrupt. So it's not like she even has progressives running her super PAC. So to me, listen, money does talk in some cases. $9 million is a lot of money. She's in second right now to Bernie in California. I don't think she's going to win California, but obviously the strategy is to try and inflate her numbers everywhere and then steal the nomination. What does this say? Because I used to like Elizabeth Warren in her early days. What does it say to you that she is now not even moonwalked? This is beyond the moonwalk. This is like Hulk Hogan showing up as a bad guy.
I think Elizabeth Warren's going to go down in history as making some of the worst political decisions. She could have been president right now if she would have ran in 2016. She would just make every misstep over and over and over again. But in regards to the establishment, I got to say, I think we're breaking some ground right now. Nancy Pelosi came out and said that she'd be okay with a Bernie nomination. Chris Matthews' apology was actually a pretty good apology. It seemed genuine. And I got to say, I think the dominoes are going to start falling, and some people are going to fall in line, because if this is real. We've won the popular vote in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and I'm going to say it. We're going to win it in South Carolina. I'm going to say it.
I don't mean to disrespect you. I don't mean to disrespect you to your face. I think you're very naive.
Well,
first of all, God bless you. Nice guy. We'll get a beer. Chris Matthews did not apologize on his own.
Okay.
He was forced to apologize. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I hope you win South Carolina, but I got to tell you, and I'll acknowledge when I'm wrong. A few weeks ago, I said I don't think the Democratic Party is suicidal enough to screw Bernie at the convention, because they'd be signing away the next 3 or 4 decades to the Republican Party. I'm changing my mind. I think they are suicidal enough. No, I really do. I think they're suicidal enough, because it's the same, think about it, it's the same principle as these fossil fuel companies who knowingly are letting the planet burn down because they're only focused on right now and the short term. They're only focused on quarterly profits. They're only focused on their time on Earth, right? I think it's the same thing with these Democratic Party elites. I don't really think They're focused on the long term. I think they're arrogant enough to think, yeah, maybe we'll piss off the young people now, but they'll come back to us.
Yeah. I think most of them are political opportunists. And once they see that this movement can't be stopped, they're going to want to put their name on Medicare for All legislation. They're like, the money is coming from independent donors.
But that's the point I'm trying to make. They will do what they have to stop the movement. If they were smart, they'd say, look at this movement. Bernie's got the juice. I'm jumping on board. But that's assuming that their main strategy is to win elections.
I don't think it's to win. It's for most of them, it's just personal, get as far as they can. I think that's a big part of Pete's campaign. It's just another thing on his bucket list, become president. But I think the movement's unstoppable, and they're going to get on board. They have to.
Are you as optimistic as our friend George?
Yeah, I don't share that level of optimism. But with going back to Warren, this is how non-optimistic I am about their overall chances. So, and this is what I mentioned before. If you have a position where you have superdelegates decide the nominee, there's zero chance they'll win that election. Meanwhile, every single candidate except Bernie Sanders is okay with that option. So what does that tell you? And now this is a big problem with politics we have in general, and this is something that I think is not talked about enough, is the revolving door. So this is why I'm a little bit more skeptical, and this is why I don't believe that they are good faith actors. Because what happens when people leave office? I'm in Missouri. Look at Claire McCaskill. What happened to Claire McCaskill when she lost? She got a cushy MSNBC position. And you see it all the time, the revolving door, whether you go as a lobbyist or you go in MSNBC. Once you win that seat and you're loyal to the party, your life is set, right? No matter whether you lose win or lose your next election. If you win, that's great. You get your power. You get to have fun. If you lose, that's great as well. I get to become a media consultant. I get to become a lobbyist. I get to be on MSNBC. I get to be on CNN. So that's... Yeah, exactly. I can go. I'm blanking on a lot of names right now, but I can go down lists, endless amount of people who ran and who became lobbyists. Look at Stacey Abrams. I was an early person that came out against Stacey Abrams because as soon as the race was over, what happened? She joined the board of CAP, Center of American Progress. The second that she did that, I immediately became distrustful of Stacey Abrams, which broke my heart because I really wanted her to win when she originally ran. So when she became a leader of CAP, I immediately was like, all right, I'm watching her. And what happened recently? She started hosting Bloomberg. She started taking Bloomberg money. So it never fails. It completely never failed. It would have been great if Stacey Abrams won. She was probably a little bit upset than when she lost, but she knew her future in politics was set. So that's the only reason why I think they're trying to kamikaze the party, because we have the problem of the revolving door. And even if Warren, I want to primary her in 2024, but it sucks because she's not going to feel the consequences of this. Because even though she kamikaze her campaign, now she might get a lobbyist position somewhere. You never know. You just see Elizabeth Warren on CNN as a commentator, as a political analysis.
Can I just make a point? And I might get in trouble for this. Listen, I think it's a good thing that CNN and MSNBC are starting to have more progressives on. They're being forced to. But if progressives are going to get jobs on these networks, be progressive. I'm not going to name names. Actually, I will. John, my former colleague, who I actually like at the Young Turks, John Iadarola. I like John. I don't have a problem with him. He went on CNN, I believe, the other night to go over the debate. Doesn't mention that Joe Biden has lied about getting arrested in South Africa. Doesn't mention that Joe Biden has lied about participating in civil rights sit-ins. Meanwhile, CNN is doing this celebratory dance that Joe Biden did a great job during the debate. Like, if you're a progressive, it's your point. You're there to point out the things that the audience will never hear from Chris Cuomo. So I'm not personally like, it's not about John, because I've seen other, Andrew Yang is on now, and he's not exactly talking as Yangy as he did before CNN was signing his checks. So, money, I don't want to say corrupts, but money sometimes waters down. That's why if I ever went on CNN, it would be one and done, because they would probably never invite me back on. Because I'm not there to establish a career as a commentator on CNN. No. So the last thing I'll say, because it's getting a bit late, thank you. We're still at 1,700 people watching. Awesome. Let's see, we just got another new member. Welcome to the party, Chris. We're now at 1,612. 1,612 Status Coup members. Keep signing up. We are, 88 members away. 88 members away. By the way, Chris, no offense to you, Nick. No, by the way, Nick, getting a couple people here saying,
got a lot of fans in here.
Hire Nick right away. But the problem, the problem, folks, there's a lot of people I want to hire. A lot of people Jen wants to hire. I can't print money like the federal government does for war. I can't print money like the federal government does for tax cuts. I could only, I can't pay Nick in rubles. We got to grow so I could hire good journalists. And, maybe I'll keep Nick's number, but keep signing up. Keep signing up so we'll have more funds to hire the Nicks of the world. Because, honestly, listen, we're a journalistic outfit. I'm not going to just hire activists off the street and try to make them journalists. However, there's a lot of great progressives out there, whether they're knocking on doors, whatever they're doing, that are very smart and are very passionate and might be really capable and interested in doing real journalism out in their communities. But I meet a lot of people that I think could be journalists, because it's a little different than being an activist, but I don't have the money to hire them because we haven't taken the easy way. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of times I've called Jen on the phone being like, hey, check our pulse, because I don't know if status quo's going to continue. Not continue, but when you're a startup, there are times when it's not easy. There are times when you're seeing like 5 new members a week rather than 5 new members an hour. There are times when you don't know if you're going to have funding to cover certain expenses because we didn't take dirty money. And we had the opportunity. To take some plutocratic money. And we did not, because I saw and Jen saw what we're experiencing now. If we just got out there, if we had enough money just to get out there, then we could grow it from there. So if you like people like Nick, if you like, the reporting we're doing in the trenches, it's very simple. It's a simple proposition. Just sign up for as low as $5 a month. For those of you in the live chat who say, Jordan, stop asking for money, it's probably not wise to tell people in the audience to fuck off. But fuck off. Because, I really don't have tolerance for this. I don't have any tolerance for people that say, stop asking for money, Jordan. Does it look like I'm asking for money so I could go to the casino? Does it look like I'm asking for money so we could go to like Wolfgang Puck's? Does it look like look what I'm wearing?
Look at where we are.
Yeah, I'm in this, I won't tell you where I am, but we're not exactly staying at the Ritz-Carlton hotels, okay? By the way, if I was a huckster, if I was a scam artist, do you think I'd be working 7 days a week? We're not asking for money to, go enjoy vacations. We're asking for money to do journalism in the field. I would rather annoyingly ask again, you then go behind your back, have behind the scenes meetings with plutocrats, take their money, and then start saying lovely things about Elizabeth Warren, and then start saying lovely things about Pete CIA. So it's up to you. If you'd rather not watch an outlet that needs to fundraise in real time, go watch someone else. That's fine. And by the way, for those of you who cannot financially support, we get it. We always say, no worries, we don't want to make your, I see some people that say, Jordan, I'm on SSDI, I'd love to help, but I can't. Of course, no problem. Share it, like it, spread it. If you can't contribute, you can't contribute. It's okay. But for those of you that can, I know a lot of you that are spending more than $5 a month on bad burnt coffee. I know a lot of you that are spending more than $5 a month on unhealthy meals. And if my girlfriend's watching, she knows. Because she says I don't eat healthy enough. But sign up, because this is how you create real journalism. Again, unless you want to leave it to CNN. If you want to leave it to CNN and MSNBC to inform the masses, as these fine folks are telling you, because they're knocking on the doors, they're not going to do it. And by the way, there's a direct line, there's a direct relationship between informing the masses and getting positive electoral results. Any last thoughts before we end?
If anyone out there, if you have the opportunity and the time, get out there. There's knock on some doors, phone bank. This is how we win. And it's so much fun. It invigorates you. It shows you that there's other people out there like you who think the same. And you know, we're doing it for each other. Like Nina Turner says, you know, lift one hand for yourself, lift one hand for somebody else. Get out there, guys.
And George from New York. Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts? Try not make it 25 minutes.
It's okay. So I'm not gonna go this long this time. So I just want to take this time, because I know a lot of people on my Twitter is probably watching this right now. I want to thank you guys, because if it wasn't for the donations you guys gave me to come down here, I wouldn't be able to do this. And this month I made a lot of great friends like George and a lot of people at the team in South Carolina, and I felt like I made a difference. So I want to let you guys know I really, really appreciate all the support that you guys fed me. I'm on GoFundMe, and just like Jim, I'm a socialist at heart. So I took that money and decided to do something good with it. And I'm glad that you guys gave me this support. With the amount of money I raised, I think I'll be able to stay in this campaign for a long time. So thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jamal, behind the camera. Like we said earlier, we're off to Columbia, South Carolina tomorrow. Bernie's having a big rally there tomorrow morning, and fingers crossed that it doesn't get canceled. But I'll be on with The Hill Rising with Crystal Ball, so looking forward to that. We will be here the night of the primary. So not sure what's going on the night of the primary, but we'll definitely be here. We'll definitely be eyes and ears, making sure that we expose whatever fudgery is going on. After South Carolina, we haven't booked it yet, but I'm thinking we're going to go to California. I think California is the big state. Now that Elizabeth Warren, Mrs. Anti-Corruption, is spending all of his money in California, it might be a little closer. So California is a huge state. Obviously, we can't go up and down California in 2 days, but we're thinking that's where we're going to go for Super Tuesday. And then after Super Tuesday, there's a lot of states that happen relatively quickly after that. So it's a long campaign. We ask you, if you haven't joined us yet, consider supporting us. Statuscoup.com/join. We just got another member. I don't even know. We've gotten like 20 new members, I think, since we've been live. Thank you, new member Todd. So we're finishing 87 members away from 1,700. So hopefully we'll put a dent in it tomorrow. I think it's a realistic goal now to hit 1,700 while we're down here in South Carolina. So thank you guys for keeping us informed. Thanks, Jamal. And we will see you tomorrow. Oh, before I forget, don't rely on YouTube. Do not rely on YouTube to notify you when we're live. And by the way, if you're receiving text messages from us, you don't even want to know how much it's costing us to send you these. It is the biggest scam I've ever seen. These text companies, they're charging us like $50 per text. But anyway, it's important because YouTube does not notify you most of the time when we're live. So join our text list. Text right now, COUP. That's COUP to 474747. That's COUP to 474747. Doesn't cost you anything. So that will get you on our text list. So that way when we text you, you'll get it. We text you when we're live. The other thing is sign up for our email list at statuscoup.com. Enter your email. Where can people find you again? Progressive Martial Arts?
It's a Progressive Martial Artist. Spell exactly how it sounds, right? Progressive Martial Artist on YouTube. It's a new podcast I started. I really started from the beginning of my journey, so please check me out.
And Twitter, anything for you?
Well, Fly Tie MMA is his Twitter. You got to follow him. But I just started on Twitter, so
don't be bashful.
G Skrills, GSKRILS. If you want to check me out, I have like 12 followers.
Add one more. We just got another new member, Saad, S-A-A-D. Saad, is that Saad? Saeed? I don't know. Saad, welcome to the party. Now 86 members away. Peace out.